Welcome to Inland Empire Alive, bringing you issues, events, and perspectives from throughout San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm David Brady, and on today's program you'll meet Mike Parkerson, President of the Board of Directors of the Norton Air Force Base Museum, to talk about the San Bernardino site's rich history. That's today on Inland Empire Alive. Well, here with me to talk about the rich history of a San Bernardino site is Mike Parkerson, the President of the Board of Directors of the Norton Air Force Base Museum. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we should probably go all the way back to the beginning. Before we talk about the museum, let's talk about the base itself. I understand that it operated for more than half a century here. Can you give me a kind of a sketch of what significance it had to the Air Force? What was its role as a base? I know all bases are not created equal. They don't all have the same functions.
Yes, that's correct. It did a lot of cargo hauling, people hauling. It hauled a lot of troops, especially during Vietnam. Before that, it was an Army Air Corps base, which was known as the San Bernardino Air Depot. And then it was named after a captain that was shot down in World War II, Leland Norton. And he's a San Bernardino resident, or a history, that's where he grew up. So they named it after him when he was shot down and killed in World War II. And ever since then, when it became Air Force, then it was transferred over to an Air Force Air Force base. And it's mainly cargo and people. It actually had a terminal, like a regular terminal at an airport where people came and went. And that was its thing. It was very instrumental during during Vietnam.
So just so we let the folks know, it operated as a military facility from 1942 until its closure in 1994. So we're talking 52 years. What was a typical day like there? What was coming in and going out of that facility? Certainly, obviously planes, you mentioned people, where were things coming and going from?
Well, from all over the world. Like, if you come into the museum, you'll have the opportunity to talk to our docents, who majority of them were all stationed there, and they love talking about what they did there. And they talk about flying all the way to Australia. Wow. They flew all over the world taking cargo and, like I said, troops. Not just Air Force people, they hauled Army troops, Marine Corps troops, anybody wherever they had to go, including the cargo that went with them.
I know that many folks know that the Air Force has a really significant presence in Southern California. Was there a significance to Norton in relation to, strategically, in relation to Edwards, Vandenberg? Did it have a special role to play in its proximity to all the defense contractors?
Yes, it basically worked in tandem with the other bases. So those bases might be hauling something different, so then they needed Norton, but Norton was huge in transporting a lot of people, more than the other bases were.
And so if we can go back to 94, when bases close, I know that is a terrible, terrible shock to a community. Not only for the people, but economically. Tell me about the resurrecting this idea in the form of a museum so many years later, that the facility obviously lives on in the form of San Bernardino International Airport. But talk to me about the work that was done to kind of, like you say, preserve the legacy and the history of what went on there for more than a half a century.
Well, when it became the Airport Authority and they were starting to do things with the old base and trying to find things to do with it, a gentleman called Ed Jeffries and another gentleman, Bob Edwards. It was their thing, and they got together, and through all they were given was an empty room, sort of. Our museum's small, but a lot of stuff inside of it. So they got together, and through different things, they start putting the museum together. Those are the two guys. Bob Edwards ended up taking it to the next level. A good example is to just get the fixtures we have in there actually came from the Hallmark store that closed in Carousel Mall.
So you got to be creative.
And he went in there, him and his wife, her name's Gail. They went in there and they go, well, what are you going to be doing with all these fixtures? And they go, well, we'll probably just throw them away. So he got some friends and trucks, and they made a museum. And everything in our museum has been donated from people that were stationed there. or their families.
There was a term that I came across when I was doing my research, and I wanted to ask you about. What is a Nortonite?
A Nortonite are the people that were stationed there.
Civilian,
So
military?
anybody that was stationed there.
Do you keep records of like how many personnel came and went? It must be in the many, many thousands.
It is many, many thousands. We don't really have the records for that because it was part of the Air Force and we weren't, things were gone by the time we started the museum. Museum's been there, we're going on 11 years, so long after it closed. So
But
a lot of
even
the stuff we
after the
couldn't get.
closure, again, we're talking 30 years ago, the memories must run so deep.
Yeah. If you come in and talk to the docents, they just love talking about it. I'm telling you, they love talking about it. They walk you around and show you stuff and things like that.
We will be back with more from Mike Parkerson, President of the Board of Directors of the Norton Air Force Base Museum, right after these messages.
Join us for our weekly farmers market in San Bernardino. The farmers market is ongoing every Tuesday at Court Street Square, located at 349 Northeast Street from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This event features both farmers and hot food vendors. Come purchase fresh produce at the farmers market and enjoy a nutritious lunch for the day. This is a certified farmers market with fresh and quality produce grown by real farmers from the region. For more information, visit our website at sbcity.org/parks. You can also call us at 909-384-5233 or email us at recreation@sbcity.org. See you there.
If you'd like to be a guest on Inland Empire Alive, email us at guest@iealive.com. Well, I'm talking with Mike Parkerson about the Norton Air Force Base Museum and the storied history of the facility itself before it closed in 1994. Talk to me a little bit about what folks can expect to see when they come to the museum. What are some of the exhibits? What are some of the presentations? What are some of the things that you mentioned have been donated by the Nortonites?
We have anywhere from, we actually have Leland Norton's Foot Locker, and it actually is kind of sad because it has dates on there and it was shipped home with his stuff that he had when he was killed. So, and we anywhere from that, we have Army Air Corps uniforms, we have a parachute from a fighter plane, all kinds of pictures, aerial views of when it was Norton Air Force Base in the 50s to what it looks like now. We have a very nice POW display from when POWs from Vietnam. We have bracelets from, I don't know if people remember it, but you could get a bracelet from, if you had somebody you wanted to wear a bracelet, they were MIA. We have a beautiful display from the WAF band, which is a Woman Air Force band that was from 51 to 61. We have that display. We actually have a UFO display, and one of our docents just loves, he's the one that put it together.
Hey, Project Blue Book.
He loves talking about UFOs and about UFOs and Norton, and he's got some pretty good stuff that people like to listen to. All that kind of stuff. We have a lot of model airplanes. We do not have any static displays because we just don't have the room. We actually have a section from the Berlin Wall. It's not just a piece of the Berlin Wall, it's the actual section.
Wow.
It's huge. We have a propeller on display from a World War II airplane. We have one of the sirens, or the air raid sirens from the base. There was two. We have one of those.
You mentioned that everything's been donated. Are there things you're looking for? Are there the Holy Grail items that you're hoping someone out there may donate?
Not really. We have a lot of stuff. We have, we are small, so a lot of things people bring in. We have storage that we have to keep things in. We try to rotate things from storage back to the museum and back to storage.
Is that a reason for coming multiple times? That, like you mentioned, you may not see the same thing on multiple visits.
Yes, that's correct.
I don't mean to kind of maybe poke at a sore subject, but do people get emotional
Some people do.
when they do?
Yeah, family members.
Yeah. Is that, I don't know, is that almost sense of pride that you've built this facility that carries on this legacy?
Right.
It keeps it alive. It keeps those stories being told. It keeps the memory of these people alive.
Yeah, that's part of it. They just like to come in, they'll go, oh, I remember this, or we donated this, now it's nice to see it on display, because when they donate it, we can't say, okay, right now we're going to put it on display. So they'll come back to see it on display. We actually, our monument outside, we sell bricks. That's one of the ways we stay alive, because we are a free museum. $100 for a brick, and you put whatever you want on it that has to do with your family, or you can get it your own, and for something that's be there forever. So things like that. But
in the time that you've been in this role with the museum, what has been the most satisfying part?
probably the people seeing things that they donated.
And then I know you have a unique position. You're a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps,
Yeah.
and during your career, you actually had opportunities to know and work and interface with some of the folks there. What was that like when it was, tell me what that was like, when it was a thriving facility in its prime?
Wow. I grew up in Redlands, so not only when I was in the Marine Corps, one of the things I did, I was a truck driver in the Marine Corps as a trade. So I would deliver pallets, and we called them Air Force pallets. I don't know what Air Force called them. We called them Air Force pallets. And I would take pallets to Norton, and they would unload them and put them on a C-141. And they would drop them someplace. But even growing up in Redlands, you just grow up listening to the C-141s flying over your house.
And these
all
are
the time.
these are
They're big.
big
Now they
cargo
use
planes.
C-17s, but back then it was C-141s.
Wow.
So it's been there forever, though.
Before we run out of time, I want to make sure we let folks know how to visit the museum. Can we give out an address, hours? The web address, we should let folks know, is nafbmuseum.org. But how can people find out more?
Again, with that, or you can just Google us. It's easy to find our website. We're open Thursdays and Saturdays, 10 to 2, and it's free. We do have things it's just fun to come and look and talk to the people. Talking to our docents, most of them are all veterans, and we have 2 Navy veterans, and we have me as a Marine Corps veteran. I'm the only Marine Corps veteran, but the rest
So
of them are Air
beyond just
Force.
the exhibits, it's the stories
Right.
that you'll hear.
Yes,
It's
you're gonna hear stories.
You're going to hear, the actual tales from the actual people who lived it. It's not just going to be a plaque on a wall. It's not going to be, an old postcard. It's going to be hearing from the people that worked at the facility that as you say, it was the beating heart of the Air Force in San Bernardino for more than half a century.
Correct.
For those that, as you say, may have lived here their whole lives and not really understood the significance of Norton, what is your pitch to have them, to why they should come visit the museum?
Just
to understand, what role it played in the history of this region.
Well, one of the things you could see is how it worked with San Bernardino and the local IE area, because people that lived around there, they all lived and worked there. So we have a lot of pictures. You can see what they had, how a base works with the cities, because it's a city in its own. I mean, it had its own judicial system, it had its own police department, grocery store, everything. It's actually a city in its own. So a lot of people don't realize that when they come in. We have actually a painting. It's kind of different, but it's a painting that shows all the different things that a base has. You could close the base down and live on it, and you don't need the outside. Wow. That's how a base works, so all of them do that.
Mike, thank you so much for being on the program. It is the Norton Air Force Base Museum, chronicling more than 50 years of a fantastic Air Force facility. It was located right here in San Bernardino. Thank you again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Visit iealive.com.